Hi everybody, Steve here at Old North Cemetery in Concord, New Hampshire. I'm here today to visit the gravesite of the 14th President of the United States, Franklin Pierce. He was a Democrat and he served one term from 1853 to 1857. He was born on November 23, 1804 in Hillsborough, New Hampshire, and died October 8, 1869 in Concord, New Hampshire. He was 64 years old, and his cause of death was cirrhosis of the liver. He was known to be a very heavy drinker and was reported to be an alcoholic. His alcoholism was even used against him during his presidential campaign by his opponent. So this is the ungated entrance to the Old North Cemetery where President Franklin Pierce is buried. It's definitely unassuming. It's a really, really interesting. I mean, it looks so historic and it's beautiful in its own way, but not exactly what I was expecting for a presidential gravesite, especially compared to some of the other presidential gravesites that I've visited already. Some of them have just been really spectacular. But this is kind of, I mean, it's definitely not spectacular, but it's kind of nice in its own way. Now, this section here where the president is laid to rest does have gates, but they're not locked or anything, just little latches. So as far as I can tell, you can just visit anytime you want. This would probably be the easiest of the presidential gravesites I've come to visit so far to visit, since it doesn't seem like there are hours and you can just come anytime you want. I mean, I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like there are any gates here. In California, you know, all the cemeteries, just about all the cemeteries, are locked at night and they have hours when you can go in and hours when they close. I don't think this one opens or closes. I think it's just always open, which is kind of funny when you think about it. You know, the president is laid to rest here. Before we go in and look at his gravesite, let's look around some of the other gravesites here. I don't know the names of any of these people on the headstones. If any of you do, please share in the comments. The ones that have flags, I'm assuming they had something to do with being in some of the various wars, or maybe they were politicians. Maybe there are other famous politicians in here. Senators. Although, you know, I haven't seen anything. I've been kind of looking around and I haven't seen any. I did see a general. So I'm guessing most of these with the flags probably belong to generals or soldiers or other people who fought in various wars over the years. Ironically, the largest and most impressive gravesite in this very small cemetery doesn't belong to the president. This very impressive replica of the Parthenon Temple from the Acropolis in Athens, Greece, or at least that's what it appears to be, belongs to oil tycoon Joseph Stickney. Stickney died on December 21st, 1903, at the age of 63 in New York. And not only does his private family mausoleum overshadow the president's gravesite, but it dwarfs every other headstone and gravesite here in the cemetery. Since the financial support from millionaires and billionaires often determines who will become president every 4 years, maybe it's not so ironic at all that this business tycoon's monument is much more prominent and impressive than the president's. I haven't walked up into this section here, and I see there's another gate up here. My GPS took me to the gate that I just came in on. Okay, let's look at these flags here. So this is, I can't even read that. Pillsbury or something? Charlotte. Yeah, some of these are just so old and worn. from the weather, it's not possible to even read the names. Albert G. Kappen. This one seems to be a little bit newer, or it's lasted a lot longer as far as the inscription. Ela. Doesn't really say why they have a flag. Isn't that interesting looking though? Isn't this beautiful though? All these old historic headstones. We don't see these kind of grave sites in California, so for me, this is really kind of new. Although back here, I'm sure this is what everyone sees and expects in a cemetery. We mostly just have the flat headstones on the ground. We don't have the standing headstones. So I wonder what Halloween is like here. I wouldn't mind living next to a cemetery, but one that looks so old and historic and looks like it could be kind of spooky on Halloween especially. I'm amazed that some of these are still standing. They must be fairly deep. I mean, after all these years, some of them have tipped over, but most of them are still standing upright. Now, unless maybe people have put them back up after they've fallen. Johnson doesn't say why he has a flag. Samuel Johnson, erected by his son Joseph Johnson. This is Bradley Street up here. They were sure a lot more elaborate back then in their design, some of them. Gilman Cutting, Eliza Davidson, his wife. Daughter of Gilman and Eliza Cutting. Only 19 years old. I don't see any plaques here or markers, historical markers, or anything indicating who's laid to rest here other than the president. Let's check out the back gate here. First, let's see who this is. Gordon has a flag. Edward F. Gordon. Eunice Hook. Edward A. Gordon, their son. Captain Samuel Alexander, so this is a military gravesite. Mary Nutt, his wife, and B.C. Blake, his wife. Okay. All right, let's go up here and look at the back gate and see if it does lock and see what it says. All pets must be on leash. Please clean up after your pet. Yeah, like that's gonna happen. I did see a dog walking its owner earlier when I came in. Let's walk over this way. I haven't been over here yet. I mean, it is a very small cemetery, so it's not difficult to walk around and see most of the graves here. Thomas Cloudman and Martha, his wife. Again, it doesn't really say anything about why he has a flag. Now this is my more jiggly camera. The sound quality is usually better, but it usually jiggles a little bit more than my iPhone. So sorry if it's jiggling. Trying to walk slowly. Here's an interesting one over here, Lovejoy. I like these bushes on each side, the hedges. Ooh, look at that bee. It's a big bee. George Lovejoy and George W. Jr. 1980, 1962. Or, I'm sorry, yeah, 1962. Oh, so that's not really that old. 1883 to 1962, 1922 to 1980. As you know, I don't normally just walk around randomly looking at headstones when I'm coming to a cemetery, but these are so interesting compared to what I normally see in California. I just wanted to take a walk around and take a look at them. Louis Thibault. Now this one's got 4 flags. Let's see if maybe there's any information about who he or she was. Oh boy. Thomas. Can't even read the last name. That's sad. Well, maybe one day the historical society here, maybe they have a historical society. Maybe they'll put markers. I've seen them in some cemeteries where they put a marker next to the grave explaining, who the person is, and that's really nice and helpful. Thomas. I think there's little flowers there. He doesn't have flags, but he's got these 3 little flowers, which is nice. Another large flag. Henry Blakely and Emma Hagar. Okay. John Hagar, or Hagar. And Saffron T, his wife. Sarah, his wife. It's interesting. I mean, this is the first time I think I've seen 2 wives buried with their husband in twice in this cemetery. That's not something you really see much. Oh, well, this is interesting. Nathaniel Peabody Rogers. It says, here lies all that could die of Nathaniel Peabody Rogers, patriot, lawyer, journalist, friend of the slave. Huh, okay, this is the only one so far that's really said anything about who it is. George Stanton Rogers, son of Nathaniel Rogers. Let's see, 1824 to 1835. Yeah, he died very young. And he's laid to rest right here behind the gravesite of President Franklin Pierce, who's right here. Alfred Sanborn, Private Company E, First. Boy, I don't know what all those initials are. I'm sure some of you will know. Another military grave, looks like to me. All right, so this is Franklin Pierce's final resting place, the back side, right here. So I'm going to walk around and go inside and show you the front. I was curious what it looked like from the back. All right, let's go walk inside the gates there and get a closer look at Franklin Pierce's gravesite. So just when I think a U.S. president's gravesite can't get any more modest, I come across another one that's more modest than the one before. It's well kept up. It's nice. This is in New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire. But there's not really much to this. I mean, he does have this headstone. That's nice. And the other thing I noticed, and maybe you noticed too, is that, see the large flags here? There's quite a few of these gravesites have really nice large flags blowing in the wind. And then you come to the president's gravesite, and you have this teeny little flag here at the bottom of the pedestal. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I mean, wouldn't he have the biggest flag, or at least one of the larger flags? That seems kind of odd to me. But you can see he was born November 23rd, 1804, and died October 8th, 1869. And Jane Appleton, wife of Franklin Pierce, she died in 1863, so she died before him. The couple had 3 sons who all tragically died before the age of 12. Franklin Jr. died in infancy. Frank Robert died at age 4 from typhus. And Benjamin died at age 11 in a train wreck. So I did just double check. I was curious. I thought I had read that his son was in a train accident. He was actually crushed to death in a train accident. Very awful way to go, and especially sad to lose their children and so young and in such awful ways. He's also remembered for running over an old lady with his horse. I don't know if he killed her, but he's pretty famous for doing that, and it's believed that he was drunk at the time that he ran her over. So it's a tough job, I'm sure, being president, and I'm guessing he probably wasn't the only one that had a drinking problem over the years when you think of all the presidents. I think with him it was maybe a little bit more extreme than than maybe some of the others, and that's one of the things he's remembered for.
In addition to being an alcoholic, Pierce was not only pro-slavery, but he was also friends with Jefferson Davis, who went on to become president of the Confederacy, all of which contributed to his lack of popularity as president. In a recent 2024 survey, presidential historians ranked all of the presidents from best to worst, and Franklin Pierce ranked number 42 out of 45 presidents. There were only 3 other presidents who ranked lower or worse than Pierce. The survey was conducted by the leading experts who specialize in the American presidency, and the experts were made up of both Democrats and Republicans. This week I want to thank all of you who have taken the time to subscribe to my channel. It is very appreciated. I also want to thank all of you who have left comments, who have given these videos thumbs up, and who have shared them with your friends. That's also very appreciated.
So as always, thanks for joining me on another historic road trip to the past until our next trip to the cemetery together. Thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.